Welcome to our podcast celebrating Scottish culture and entertainment, which is here to sing the praises of books, films, comedy, music, theatre, exhibitions, telly, poetry, and all that jazz. I'm Nicola Meehan. I'm an arts writer and broadcaster, and I'll give you the lowdown on what's coming up, what's happening now, what came before, and what we love, which is to say that every week, nearly, I'm here to give you a kick up the arts. Now, before we get wired into this week's episode, I have just announced that wildlife cameraman, filmmaker and rock and roll lion tamer Gordon Buchnanan is the latest guest to join me for a Kick Up the Arts live at the Edinburgh Fringe. We'll be at the Stand, August the 19th, 2 to 3 p.m. I am thrilled and we would love you to join us. My other guests that week so far are Gavin Mitchell on the 18th, Barbara Dixon on the 20th, Grant Stott on the 21st, and Delamitre's Justin Curry on the 23rd. And I'm going to be announcing more guests soon. You can get tickets for all of those right now, if there's any left, via kickupthearts.org. And before that, next month, Val McDermid and I are in conversation at the Portobello Bookshop. That's on July the 9th. And you should totally come to that too. You must. Same place for the tickets if you fancy. I'm also thrilled to be coming to Edinburgh International Book Festival and Bute Noir, maybe even the East Nuke of Fife. I'll tell you all about those events soon, or sign up for the newsletter for more, news. I would love you to do that. Subscribe on the website. But anyway, this week we're at Glasgow Royal Concert Hall as this year's 39th Glasgow Jazz Festival kicks off. The city's longest running music festival is all go right now, and it runs until Sunday, June the 22nd. Among its wonders, it's going to welcome Gil Scott-Heron's legendary collaborator Brian Jackson, a keyboardist, flute-player, vocalist and all sorts, who's also worked with Stevie Wonder, Gwen Guthrie and Earth, Wind and Fire. He joins artists on the programme like later with Jules' favourites, the Neil Cowley Trio, Colin Steele and his quartet reimagining the Blue Nile, and incredible turntablist Mariam Rezai joining forces with incendiary saxophonist Raymond MacDonald. With only a mere few hours till the opening events, I met up with Glasgow Jazz Festival director Jill Rodger and rising star Marian McGregor, who won Best Vocalist at the Scottish Jazz Awards in 2023. She's going to launch her new album, Make Believe, at the festival on Sunday. All of the music you're going to hear in this episode, apart from this bit, is from Marianne's fab album. Jill and Marianne and I looked forward to some of this year's events, and Jill also looked back on a festival that she's been part of since 1990. What I didn't expect was how much of our conversation would be taken up with Jill's memories of George Benson hanging out in Dorothy Perkins, or her taking soul icon Jimmy Smith underwear shopping. But then again, if jazz has taught us anything, it's to expect the unexpected. Before we get to this, not just this year's programme, Jill, but this week's programme, tonight's programme, no stress, you took a deep breath there. Let's look back. When did you first get involved with a festival? And were you always in love with jazz?
Well, I used to work in the whisky trade. When I finished college, I did a business studies degree, and there was an admin job at the Jazz Festival going. I was fed up with the whisky trade. After 6 years, applied for the admin job at the end of 1989 and started in January 1990 in the lead up to what was the festival during the City of Culture.
What a year.
And it was huge.
What a year to start, because Glasgow at that point, everything is possible, right? Culturally, musically. I mean, you're more of a music lover than specifically a jazz lover.
Yeah, definitely a music lover from when I was about 9. Started going to gigs in Glasgow, which is about 20 odd miles from where I lived. But when I was 15, Elton John at the Apollo was my first gig.
What a gig, though.
Before that, it was just collecting vinyl and whatever I could get my hands on. So the minute I had my first gig at the Apollo, that was me. And the minute I passed my test, I was driving up to gigs at Strathclyde Union and the Apollo, and then the Barras when it's opened as well. Yeah, by about 84 that's open. And I suppose the other thing is with Glasgow music in particular at that point, if you're coming up for gigs, even thinking about Postcard and Orange Juice and the Sound of Young Scotland,
they're already celebrating a lot of the ideas that are way out with the bounds of what we might call rock or pop music. There's lots of funk in there. There is possibly jazz in there, I would argue, as well. Electronic music, of course, as well. Everything to play for. It always sort of has been.
Definitely, I was a huge postcard fan as well.
Were you?
And Aztec Camera and Edwin, and yeah, still to this day, I would go to every gig.
Oh, love them all. So when did you then take the reins as a director? Because you came in a bit sick of the whiskey trade, loving music. It's one thing to be working on the admin. It's another thing to be completely in charge, as much as anyone ever is one person.
The admin, I was administrator, then I was general manager with the fabulous Olive Millen. She was creative director, so Olive and I worked together on the festival. I'm very much from the spreadsheets and the figures side of things and the administration. And Olive was the creative director. And then when Olive decided to hang up her jazz hat, the board asked me if I would programme 1 year because they didn't have anyone else, and I panicked a bit, but said yes for 1 year only. And here we are, 22 years later.
Oh my goodness, that's what happens, isn't it? Why would you want to be anywhere else? So what about you, Marianne? What does a festival mean to you as a musician, but also as a music fan? How far back do you go with it?
I've lived in Glasgow for, I think, about 12 years. And I was always probably emailing Gil saying, can I be at the Jazz Festival? And I've attended concerts, and I think it was maybe 2019 I did my first actual Jazz Fest concert.
Wow, okay.
And it was the funniest thing because a singer that I really loved was coming to perform, an American singer, and I was planning on going anyway, and then I got asked to be the support, so I was just absolutely thrilled. That was Hayley Tuck. So that was probably my first time performing in Glasgow Jazz.
Wow.
Bluebirds fly in magic skies. I'm alive. Window to my
And then obviously this year I get to do a big show and get to do my album launch.
I know, we're going to
So
speak
excited.
about that shortly. It's so exciting. We are in the green room. We're in the very room where it's going to happen, which is amazing. But straight away, Jill, Marianne struck on something, which is, although it is an absolute international, globally looking festival, it is always so important that local musicians who are just up and coming, are given a platform, and that's as vital, isn't it?
Hugely important, yes. I mean, if it can be support slots to start with, and then like Marianne ending up, with her own gig, that's what, the programming ethos is for us.
Do you remember, Marianne, first emailing you? I'm wondering what the process was of getting some messages, but also hearing that voice, because
Well,
it is something.
It is something else, yes.
Really, seriously.
I thought it was before 2019, but maybe 2018 for Hayley Tuck. Maybe I'm not convinced. That was quite an eventful day. I remember as well with allergic reactions, and there's always something happening behind the scenes.
Right, okay. I must say, when we've spoken over the years, although you've had so many incredible, absolute trailblazers on the Glasgow Jazz Festival stages, Miles Davis, Dizzy Gillespie, the list goes on, B.B. King. Do I remember, I don't know about the allergic reactions, but did you take George Benson shopping one time?
I did take George Benson shopping. George Benson and his son from this very concert hall on a Monday where none of the shops were open late in Glasgow.
What did they want to go for?
Clothes.
Really?
And I said I'd meet them at the bottom of the steps on top of Buchanan Street, and they'd already gone into Dorothy Perkins at that point across the road, which was just like, I'm going, Mr. Benson, no.
That is
I don't think there's anything for you in here.
Oh, that is so brilliant. But of course, that's part of it as well. It's seeing these names and these voices and these faces up close. So
I've taken a few people shopping.
Have you? Who else have you taken shopping?
Jimmy Smith.
Really?
Yeah,
Where did you go with Jimmy Smith?
Slater's menswear. The airline had lost all his luggage and he didn't have any clothes to perform in. So
Really?
I took him to Slater's to kit him out with everything, and I mean everything down to underwear.
Really? Wow. The mind boggles.
Yes, I had to ask him what size.
Every day will be different, right? That's the thing. It's like, what does the director of Glasgow Jazz Festival do? What doesn't the director of Glasgow Jazz Festival do?
When we were in Germany, Jill went and bought me a nail file, didn't you?
Absolutely. I'm not called Jazz Mum for nothing.
I believe that is your name, yeah, Jazz Mum. We've spoken about some musical visionaries there. Some of whom have even gone into Dorothy Perkins. This year is no different. There are some absolutely huge names. We'll talk about the local acts shortly and the collaborations. But tell us who you're most excited about, because it strikes me that there are maybe some names on the bill who might have been on your wish list for a while. When Brian Jackson, for example, was announced, of course, Gil Scott-Heron, really, really close collaborator, also worked with Gwen Guthrie, Earth, Wind and Fire, Stevie Wonder. Was that a long time coming, Jill?
It was a long time coming, definitely. As was my chance to see Gil Scott-Heron was a long time coming.
Yeah.
And I finally saw him just not long before he died over in Edinburgh at the Picture House, because the gigs had been cancelled so many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brian Jackson had been on the wish list, and Joe Rattray, who's the co-programmer with me.
Lovely Joe.
And I, lovely Joe, we both had that on our wish list and made it happen, and we're delighted. And that's going to be on Friday night, and we cannot wait.
How does that happen? Is this a year-long sort of process, booking for the Jazz Festival? Is it non-stop? Do you ever get a break, is what I'm asking?
This year, it's we probably started in January once we found out about the multi-year funding from Creative Scotland, so we didn't know before then.
Really?
So we couldn't commit to anything, but now we're on multi-year for the first time ever. We can start planning for 2026, which will be the 40th anniversary, so that's a brilliant position to be in, coming up for the 40th.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a really good sign as well. And also, I guess from your point of view, are you particularly looking forward to seeing anyone, Marianne, in the run-up to your album launch, which is in this very room on Sunday?
Play and make believe we're together in my dreams. You're my fantasy, make me believe.
Well, one of the things about being a musician is you're always busy doing gigs yourself.
That's so true.
If I was available, I would have loved to see Rose Room, who are playing tonight. Even though it's sold out, maybe I would have been allowed to sneak in.
Yeah, sold out. And it's a big anniversary as well, right?
15th
anniversary for them.
Tomorrow night, I think I'll try and go see Timmy Allen.
Yeah.
Right? And then just the musician life. You can never go to anything because you're gigging yourself.
And we've always got the late night jam sessions. This year, just Thursday, Friday, Saturday for the late night jam sessions in Sleazy's.
Again, it's that idea of community, though, isn't it? Everything that is to be celebrated, like the kind of basement thing, the spontaneity thing, it being open to everybody. But also, I mean, the Jazz Festival really has such a wide outlook of what jazz is and what it can be, Jill, and it feels like that's something it's always revelled in. The jam sessions are a big part of that, aren't they?
Definitely, for a lot of people, they still hark back to the jam sessions at the Marriott Hotel way back, in the early 90s, where you would see all sorts of international stars just checking back into the hotel after their gig and then coming down to hang,
really, and
playing with some of the local people. So it was always brilliant. You never knew what you were going to get. And plus, it was a very late license. So
that's the reality.
It was the days
as well.
before the late license. Really, you could get that during the festival.
We're all here for that. So you're launching your album as a part of this year's Jazz Festival. How important is it to you that Make Believe sort of comes to life for the first time, gets set out into the world at Glasgow Jazz Festival?
Well, it's really exciting because although I've made 2 albums before, I made them in 2020 and I didn't do any launch and I didn't do any touring, and also those albums were kind of bedroom albums, whereas this time I actually got Creative Scotland funding, so I feel like I've done it for real this time.
I'm drawn to you like a moth to a flame, but deep down I know you don't feel the same.
So doing a big launch concert feels appropriate, and I'm excited.
Yeah, it's like, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
When you're writing, because it's all, your songwriting as well as your voice, if you like, where did that come from, that love for and finding your songwriting voice as much as finding your musical voice? Like, what's your musical upbringing, Marianne?
So I grew up in Orkney, which is just full of traditional folk music, and I have a very musical family, not just folk, but like classical players. My mum's a composer, and I don't really know how, but I just found my way in jazz ever since I was like a little kid. No matter what was playing around the house, I would just sing along with it.
Really?
And I guess I was teaching myself to improvise and scat sing, but I didn't know that that's what I was doing. So I'd say pretty much from when I was a teenager, I knew I wanted to be a jazz singer.
Really?
And I never really planned to be a songwriter. It just kind of happened.
Really? That's lovely. But also I love that it's almost sort of accidentally the rhythm of it, the intonation of it, that musicality obviously really appealed to you, but also your voice.
I think I just found an avenue where I felt really comfortable because there is set rules, but there's also no rules.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. How important was it, for example, to be not just nominated, but to win Jazz Vocalist at the Scottish Jazz Awards, Best Jazz Vocalist? I mean, I love your shoulders just went up, right? That recognition, but also that encouragement, was that really important to you? Because that's between the sort of bedroom albums, as you called them, that came out a few years ago, and then we have this new album, if you like.
I think getting that kind of acknowledgement it's just like you feel really supported, and it feels like, oh, someone out there knows that I'm trying hard and people appreciate what you do. And I don't know if like music can really be analysed in a this is the best or this is the best, because it's so subjective. But when people think that what you do is good, it really keeps you going.
The music runs through my veins and out my fingertips. I'm falling out with myself, the evil voice within. The music, it heals me, reveals me, thickening my skin. Just lie back and let the rhythm draw you.
And it's that lovely thing, isn't it, that jazz can have a really local accent, and it can mean lots of different things to lots of different people, while also sounding, I think, like a real kind of classic torch song as well. It can do all that, Jo, can't it?
Absolutely, it certainly can. I mean, there's so many things that I've programmed, or Joe's programmed, and Olive's programmed throughout the years that people might think, is that jazz? It can be absolutely everything. There's a really bad quote, which I think I said in an interview once, jazz is a 4-letter word, but it has A to Z in the middle.
I love it.
I shoehorned that in there.
I love
Some people
it.
will love that.
I know, I also
got
love that
slagged for saying that before.
There's a terrible quote. I think I was quoted on it. Let me say it again just in case. It's absolutely true, though. And I would say, again, just even looking at some of the incredible local names that we've got on it, DJ Rebecca Vasmant, who I absolutely love, with love from Glasgow. A lot of the quote-unquote jazz musicians you've got playing have had albums longlisted, shortlisted, and indeed winning the Scottish Album of the Year award as well. Graham Costello's on there, and of course Fergus McCready. Now, again, there's so much folk in his music, there's so much landscape that inspires his music. It's absolutely jazz as well, and he is bringing the Jazzwegians.
The new Jazzwegians.
Tell
Again,
me
that's
about
one of
this.
my cheesy titles.
I'm here for this.
Yes, Glasgow this year is 850 years old, so there was a festivals fund announced for projects for existing festivals to complement their programming, and I thought it would be nice to do an event that, you know, involved people who've made Glasgow their home and made their jazz career here, decided to stay here, maybe after they've studied, but not necessarily born in Glasgow. And I asked Fergus to co-curate that with me. So that will be in the afternoon of Sunday the 22nd of June at St Luke's, and feature Nathan Somavi, Aku and Azamaya.
Yeah, that's going to be unreal.
And Mariana, new Jazzwegian as well.
I know, is that right? The
From
new
Orkney to
Jazzwegians.
Glasgow, yes.
Well, that's so true, isn't it? It's funny how once you find a sense of community, and that can be a musical community, you can feel at home somewhere, Marianne. You go, yeah, this is it. This is for me.
I think that's what happened with Glasgow, yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I have a lot of friends who maybe have lived in Glasgow, Edinburgh, and moved around after studying, and I just stayed here. And I feel like it's home now.
Yeah, well, it is now because you're a Jazzwegian. It's official. You know, I just love even looking down at this, some of the programme and some of the descriptions of the type of the music. I wouldn't dare to try and do that. But, you know, it's sax, bone, drums trio, as you mentioned, Aku.
Aku.
Exclamation mark.
Yes. I think they might have dropped the exclamation mark now, but I've seen it in both ways now.
I love it with the exclamation mark. I think that's very, very important. How important are the actual venues? Because you mentioned obviously having the jam sessions, Jill, but as the festival has endured and been celebrated over the years, you've moved into lots of different parts of the cities as well and populated different venues, even going back to something like the Fruit Market.
Yeah, the Fruit Market was always seen as our home. We were the first people to use it for a gig in 1993. The festival opened with a double-header, or not double-header, 2 Jules Holland big band shows back in July 93.
It's unreal to think it wasn't a venue before that.
It wasn't a venue, it was just a car park, really being used as a car park. So we thought, yeah, let's go. And it was very much a pop-up venue in those days. And it's a brilliant venue. Hopefully for the 40th anniversary we can get back in there for at least one celebratory concert.
Yeah.
That's the plan anyway.
I love that one of the other things that the festival does and some of the musicians do within the festival is they also explore the possibilities of other music that's maybe not fallen into, if you like, the jazz sphere in the past. I'm thinking about the Blue Nile here and Colin Steele's reimaginings of the work of the Blue Nile. Tell us a bit about that, Jill, because this is just such a wonderful concept. Who among us can ever get enough of the Blue Nile, or Colin Steele for that matter?
Steele, yes. Well, we booked Colin to do the Pearl Fishers one that he did a few years ago as well, and we did that at Drygate. And Edinburgh Jazz Festival, I think, had commissioned the Blue Nile concert last year or the year before. I can't quite remember which year. And
I think it was last year.
Yeah, it was last year, I think. And Colin got in touch and I said, yes, definitely. So the 8 o'clock show sold out almost instantly.
Yeah.
So we put on a 6 o'clock show and it sold out as well. So
Fingers on the buzzers.
Fingers on buzzers to get there. There might be 1 or 2 released on the day, but we...
Well, I'll be first in line for them, I tell you.
Colin's just hoping he's still got his chops for the second show.
Yeah,
but
quite.
He'll be fine.
He'll be
fine.
brilliant. But I do love that it can shed new light and new life on Glasgow classics within the festival.
Yeah, and Paul Buchanan's actually appeared at the festival before, back in the Fruit Market.
That's right.
As a guest of Chris Botti, the trumpeter. But we weren't allowed to advertise it in advance. We knew it was happening but couldn't tell anyone. So the audience got a real pleasant surprise that night.
That's wonderful, though. The magic of collaboration like that has to be, and also completely one-off performances.
Definitely.
That's got to be vital.
Well, that's what the jam sessions do. It's the one-off performances. I remember one year when it was in the City Cafe bar over at the City Inn Hotel, and Roy Hargrove had come in the night early by mistake for some reason. He just appeared. So he managed to check in. I don't know how he managed to do that because his room wasn't booked till the next night. But he just was sitting in the back corner of the jam session, almost like behind the band. And suddenly he started playing flugelhorn in the corner, and people couldn't see where it was coming from. He was like almost sitting behind a room divider, and then he came out to the front. So that was a magic moment. I always remember that one.
Yeah, my goodness.
Which was really good.
You're speaking about it in such a visual sense, which I really, really love. I can imagine being there even if I am. But we get another chance to at least gaze longingly and admiringly at some jazz musicians who have passed through Glasgow at Alan Donaldson's wonderful photography exhibition, which is running concurrently, isn't it, down at Street Level Photoworks. Have you had a chance to go down and see it yet,
I have.
Jill?
I did
It's
go down
fantastic.
for the launch night.
Oh, it's
a brilliant
wonderful.
exhibition. Alan's done some really amazing photos of everyone.
Including Fergus McCready, who we just mentioned. I love the fact that Alan kind of mentions there's a lovely book that goes along with it. And we do, I think, quite often when we envisage jazz photography, we're thinking black and white, we're thinking smoky, but these are so vivid, they're so colourful. It's a free exhibition. I just feel like it really brings to life everything that's happening on this map of Glasgow and in these venues and in these brilliant colours during festival season.
Definitely. And adding other things in, we've got, thanks to 850 Festival Fund, we've also got a free gig at the Pearce Institute in Govan on Saturday afternoon with the Byres Road Big Band. And it's nice to be able to do these things as well and to spread over, across the river as well.
Completely.
And that's nearly sold out as well. Although it's free, it's nearly sold out as well.
Yeah, you don't want to have a Rami.
We've got book reading on Friday. Kevin Lejeune is coming up from London to do a reading from the second volume of his book, Children of the Ghetto. And that'll be taking place in Second Line Records, the new jazz record shop in Hindland, which opened. And I mean, again, having a dedicated jazz record shop in Glasgow is something I could never have foreseen all these years
It's a brilliant
ago.
idea. I have yet to get down. Have you been down yet, Marianne?
It's beautiful.
Oh, I can just imagine seeing your record in there. But before that, in this very room, in this very green room, Sunday night, who's going to be on stage with you? What's happening? What can we see?
So I've got such an amazing band lineup. Paul Harrison on piano, Mario Caribe on double bass, Max Pop on drums, Brian Molly on saxophone and flute, Sam Parkinson on guitar, and myself on vocals.
Oh, you're just smiling there.
You left me and it was so cold. You never even owned up to anything. A coward with a vicious sting.
Imagine you hadn't opened those emails, Jill.
Well, I know.
Do you know what? I get the sense, Marianne, you'd have just kept sending them.
Yeah, I think
You've
I
got to
think
be. You've got to be tenacious, right? You've
Yeah,
got to
you
just
do.
keep trying.
Shameless. You have to
Oh
be.
yes, yeah, okay. So a lot of friendly faces and well-known faces on the stage, and no doubt of them, there is going to be a face that is going to be so hugely missed this year. Jill, Brian.
There
Kelly.
is Brian Kellogg, who has... I did look through my file of all the old brochures, and I think he has appeared in every single edition of the festival. He sadly passed away a couple of weeks ago. Last night on social media, we posted up the link to our 2020 concert, the virtual concert we did with them at the Blue Arrow, filmed socially distanced. And you're looking back to those days, it seems crazy.
strange,
But so that went out on our social media last night, just in honour of Brian on the eve of the festival, just to remember him.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely lovely to see it again and to think of him again. And I think it makes him feel like a part of this, which absolutely always will be. Well, listen, good luck with everything that's to come over the next few days. I won't even ask you what you've got lined up for the 40th, given the 39th Glasgow Jazz Festival hasn't kicked off yet. I am so glad, Jill Roger, that you got sick of whiskey.
I never even drank it when I was there either. It's not even anything. When we go to the trade fair in Germany, we have a drinks reception as well, and I talk nonsense about whiskey. I was actually a noser as well.
Were you?
Yeah.
The full thing?
The full thing.
No half measures in
No half
anything you
measures,
do.
that's it.
Okay, well, listen, thank you so much. I will let you get on with things. What a busy day and a busy week you've got ahead. And Marianne, all the best for the brilliant new album and for your album launch. How good is that going to be?
Thank you.
It's going to be great, is how good it's going to be. Thank you so much. Thanks again to Jill Roger, the woman, the legend, the jazz mum, the director of Glasgow Jazz Festival, and to Marianne McGregor, whose new album Make Believe is launched at Glasgow Royal Concert Hall in the Green Room on Sunday, June the 22nd. All the music you heard in this episode, other than this bit, is thanks to Marianne's album and that voice. If you're in the city for the festival or otherwise, street level photo works on the Trongy is always worth a visit, and Alan Donaldson's exhibition, The Glasgow Jazz Pictures, is showing till June the 29th. And it is free! What's not to love? Speaking of street level, we recorded a Kick Up the Arts with the Bluebells' Bobby Bluebell and Hipsway's Graham Skinner there a few months back. I'm pretty sure we talk about jazz on that as well. We talk about pretty much everything else, and we certainly chat about Skin spending an afternoon with 60s folk and soul trailblazer Odetta in Topshop. So there's a bit of a shopping theme emerging, if nothing else. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to this week's Typically Brilliant, a play, a pie and a pint, where I spent an excellent lunch hour after our Jazz Festival chat today. Amy Conway's The Haunting of Agnes Gilfrey is hilarious, it's heartbreaking, and it is haunting in all manner of ways. If you can bag a ticket, and you'll be lucky, by the way, it's been sold out the past 3 days, it is well worth a visit. And if you're a jazz fan, you might just enjoy a Kick Up the Arts with Liz Lockhead and her sidekick and saxophonist Steve Ketley, or indeed the episode with James Robertson and jazz pop conjurer Andrew Vasilik. I would love you to listen. I would also love you have a mention to join us for the live shows. Val McDermid at the Portobello Bookshop on July the 9th. Grant Stott, Gavin Mitchell, Gordon Buchnanan, Barbara Dixon, Justin Curry, and more to be announced are at the Edinburgh Fringe in August will be at the stand. And then, well, I'm going to tell you about Bute Noir and maybe the East Nuke Festival and maybe Edinburgh International Book Festival next time. For now though, please like, listen, subscribe, sign up for the newsletter, buy tickets to join us. I would love to see you. It's all at kickupthearts.org, and thank you so much if you do any of that. Anyway, I'm away to Dorothy Perkins to look for George Benson. In fact, I'm away to look for Dorothy Perkins. Thank you again. Bye for now.